People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. With over 350 million global monthly visitors, Indeed's matching engine helps you find quality candidates fast. You get to ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. It's not just about hiring faster, though. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Don't search. Match with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Hello, America. It's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you don't have Consumer Cellular yet, now is the perfect time to switch and save. For a limited time, new customers can get wireless service for as low as $15 a month for your first year. Yep, the same exact nationwide coverage as the leading carriers for $15 a month for an entire year. What are you waiting for? Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com and use code RADIO15.
See consumercellular.com/firstyear15 for promotional details.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Hello and welcome to Gegenpressing, the Bundesliga podcast. I'm Manu and he is Matt Ford. And you know what that means? That means it's a deep dive into something. And Matt, first of all, before we get into the big topic, which is Christian Streich, how's it going? How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Took me a few days to get on top of the Christian Streich news. I was on a cloud after United's win in the FA Cup.
I knew you would mention this. I knew you would.
Didn't want to accept that there was any negative or any more depressing news in the world, because that's what the Christian Streich news was. As we'll get into it, but I think we're ready to go now.
Yeah, I think let's talk about how we maybe both heard about it and how our initial feelings were about this. I got some indications about it last week already in and around the defeat to West Ham. And no, if you're a West Ham fan, you did not cause this. It doesn't matter how hard you try with your fan scenes and all that sort of stuff, claiming that you ended an era at SC Freiburg. You did not. I'm sorry. This is not how this works. I was shocked and saddened, of course. Christian Streich means a lot to anyone who follows the Bundesliga. But I was not surprised, Matt. I feel like this has been maybe coming. I know that, I get the sense around Christian Streich that this is a man who is much more than just a football coach, right? He's a person who has spoken many, many times every year in interviews about the things that he likes to do. And so I kind of felt like, okay, well, it's sad that it's over, but it also felt like this moment seemed kind of right. But I also then right away wondered, okay, what's next? And how will you compensate that as a club like SC Freiburg? Those were all my kind of initial feelings. I don't know who you took it on.
Yeah, after the initial shock of reading the initial headlines and the news breaking and watching the very emotional and very nice video that Christian Streich published via SC Freiburg. Yeah, after the initial shock, there was certainly a feeling that this isn't a massive surprise. I think this news could have come at almost any point in the past 2 or 3 years. It's been a period of huge success for SC Freiburg, very much the culmination of Christian Streich's work there, not just as coach over 12 years, but in his non-footballing role over 29 years, and going back even further before that as a player briefly as well. But it was also a period of massive change for Freiburg, on and off the pitch. As we'll get into, the expectations changed for Freiburg. They went from being a team always looking at relegation to a team fairly regularly qualifying for Europe, reaching German Cup finals. That was very much the pinnacle in 2022. And of course, off the pitch, moving into a new stadium. I definitely wouldn't underestimate the magnitude of that move. All sorts of changes. Often for the better in Freiburg. Changes which Christian Streich himself has pushed. He's never been a man to stand still. So I think based on all that context, this decision wouldn't have been surprising at any other point in the past few years either. The fact it's come now, I think, it is easy to look at short-term results, but that's the wrong context to look at Christian Streich, because he's anything but a short-term manager, and SC Freiburg anything but a short-term club. Nevertheless, I think it is only one win in the Bundesliga this calendar year, and even though there was a spectacular comeback against Lens in the Europa League, obviously the pretty crushing defeat against West Ham, but again. To think, like you said, to think that the immediate results led to this decision is, I think, to fundamentally misunderstand Christian Streich and SC Freiburg.
I think he would also have made this decision if they were, let's say, top 4 in the Bundesliga and had beaten West Ham. Matt, I think, as you said, he's always moving and is always moving forward, right? This is a person that has spent an enormous amount of energy on this club, going back beyond just being a head coach, right? He's been there since 1995. It's a long time. He's 58, and I think that it kind of, his goodbye video and the way he was talking about it reminded me a little bit of how Klopp's exit at Liverpool. I think we forget how much energy you need to spend on working on this extremely high level. And his achievement at Freiburg, I think, is almost at the same level as what Klopp has achieved, or maybe even more. Maybe it's even harder, right, than what Klopp has achieved at Liverpool, because it is a club that means a lot for that region in Germany, and he has increased that club's platform enormously. And I think, unlike many other clubs in Germany, he was the face of the club, and in anything that you would see about Freiburg, he was front and center of it. And at the same time, you have a man who's quite public about family balance. He gave a recent interview with Elf Freunde, which you said was given after the 5-0 defeat to Stuttgart, right?
I believe so,
yeah. Where he talked about wanting to do a bike tour throughout the Mediterranean. I mean, I don't blame him. I would like to do that. That sounds great. But you can't do that as a head coach of a Bundesliga team, Matt. And, I think Streich was there many times before. He's indicated in another interview that he almost left in 2016. I think that was an interview with Kicker. I think this is a man who gives either everything or nothing. And I don't think there's any two ways about it. And if he gets the slightest inkling, or if he had gotten the slightest inkling that he couldn't give everything anymore, I don't think it would have mattered where the club was.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. With over 350 million global monthly visitors, Indeed's matching engine helps you find quality candidates fast. You get to ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. It's not just about hiring faster, though. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Don't search. Match with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I mean, it's not a coincidence when you say this could have happened at any time in the past few years. I say that not because I had any sort of any sort of emotional or intellectual inkling that might be the case, but because it's a business fact that SC Freiburg have been looking at replacements on a year by year basis. The Christian Streich has been extending his contract only by 1 year at a time, and that's not been a secret. He's been well aware of that, of the parallel planning going on within the hierarchy at SC Freiburg, because he is the hierarchy at SC Freiburg. And his superiors, but that's the wrong word, his colleagues, sporting director Clemens Hartenbach and director of sport Jochen Zeyer, have been conducting this parallel search for a successor on a year-by-year basis, explicitly with Christian Streich's knowledge, approval, and indeed cooperation. So, like so many things in Freiburg, it's an absolutely unique way of doing it. I always think back to a huge banner that SC Freiburg fans had towards the culmination of their cup run to the cup final in 2022. They had it away at Hamburg in the semi-final, and they had it along the bottom of the Ostkurve at the Olympic Stadium in Berlin for the final, and it said, Einzigartiger Verein, unique club. And that says, the Freiburg are a unique club, and that's embodied by the uniqueness of Christian Streich and the unique role that he fulfilled in that club. But he brought so many threads together. He's almost like a bit of a puppet master. Yes, in the mould of Jurgen Klopp in the modern day, but I think for a closer comparison, you'd have to go back sort of 10-15 years to the likes of Arsene Wenger, Alex Ferguson, and even further back to the likes of Bill Shankly. These old schools of English style managers who were managers in the sense of the word, that they really did manage everything, unlike a modern day head coach, which of course, on paper, Christian Streich was, but he was also so much more than that. He was so much more than a coach who maybe you kick out the door after 2.5-3 years. But the sporting director continues the business of the club ticking over. And Streich, by virtue of his longevity and also by virtue of his personal skills and his competence within the industry, was able to generate that longevity and generate that uniqueness. This could have happened at any time over the past few years, and that wouldn't have been a coincidence. It wouldn't have been a slight on either Freiburg or on Christian Streich. They've come to the point now where they've clearly decided together, and it absolutely will have been a joint decision. It will have come to absolutely no surprise to anybody within SC Freiburg that he's decided to call it a day. I found a nice little quote from the Kicker interview that you mentioned, where he said that if there was going to be a point where he leaves, he would like it to be a point where he can say thank you, and the others can say, yeah, that wasn't all so bad, was it?
I like
and he
that
says
quote.
That it's perfectly Christian Streich, isn't it? And he says, if we could find that moment, it would be a dream, because that would fit the club, and it would help maintain its culture and identity. And that's what's important in Freiburg. Christian Streich, at any point in the past 3 years, could have left on top. He could have left after the cup final in 2022. Had the penalty shooter gone the other way, even with a trophy. That's when they were on top. 2022, they're in a cup final, 6th in the league, or indeed maybe the next year where they got to the cup semi-final but finished 5th in the league. This was Freiburg right on top, moving into a new stadium, really stepping into the future. This would have been at the time to leave Freiburg right on top. But then again, that's not what's important to Freiburg or to Christian Streich, is it? He stepped down just after the peak, perhaps. I'm sure other peaks will come for SC Freiburg, but his decisions come after the current peak. And he's done that not because the sporting success is the most important thing, but because other values fit at this moment in time. And that's absolutely fitting for him.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.
You know when you're listening to a true crime story that has an unbelievable plot twist that makes you stop in your tracks? That's what our podcast, People Are the Worst, brings you with each episode. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Rebecca. We're identical twins who love true crime cases that make you say, didn't see that coming, and we hate the people responsible for them. Listen to People Are the Worst now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.